Everything in life is timing. Hauling loads for Amazon is no different. In fact, it's crucial there. And, timing plays into everything as far as, when to book a load. What happens, is it even possible to double book a load? And then even down to the little things like, okay, I've booked the load, when do I start it? And did I make $800 on 2.5 miles last night? Let's get after it. So first thing you got to understand is Amazon blocks out a ton of time for these loads. They typically give you anywhere from like an hour and a half to 2 hours. So if you book a load that, let's say, is only going to take 20 minutes, they're going to block out 2 hours for that. If you book a load that's going to take 2 hours, they'll give you 4 hours to do that time. The other thing to keep in mind is when you do book a load, it's kind of a 3-step process. You go in, you see the load board. This can happen on the app or it can happen on the web-based platform. You book it. Again, it can happen on both of those. Then the second step after booking is assigning a driver. Now, that currently as it stands, this has to happen on the web-based platform. So you go on and you assign the driver. That's step number 2. The last step is starting the actual load. That has to be done through the app. The driver's been assigned, and basically you say like, hey, I'm bringing this equipment. I'm gonna show up at this site, and it'll give you GPS directions on how to get there. So let's say you're on a load that you're going to finish in 20 minutes, but Amazon's blocked out the next 2 hours, and you see a load that's starting an hour from now, and you know that you can complete both. Is it okay to do that? It is, but here's where a lot of people get hung up. Because that first load is blocked out for those full 2 hours, when you go to assign yourself as a driver, that second step I mentioned earlier, when you go to assign yourself, it's gonna come up and say ineligible driver. Now here's the workaround for that. As soon as you finish the first one, you're basically not gonna assign a driver until you finish the first one. As soon as you finish the first one and clear it out of your queue, you now become an eligible driver and can assign yourself to that load and show up at or before your scheduled arrival time, and everything's gonna be fine. I do it all the time. So my best example of this comes from a few weeks ago. I was down in Otay. They dropped 2 of these move the trailer across the streets. Now, knowing if the trailer is empty or full does play into this. I have done prior content on this. If you'd like to check it out, I'll put a link to it in the description below. But basically, with 2 trailers, there's 3 scenarios. Both are full. I wouldn't do that. One's full, one's empty. I would do that. And in this situation, they both were empty. I absolutely would do that. Here's why. If you're waiting for a full trailer, you're kind of at the mercy of, what if the trailer's not ready and they have to load it? Now you've double booked a load and you're for sure gonna be late to the second one. So both full, definitely wouldn't do it. If one empty is one and the other one's full, I would absolutely book that. I would do the empty one first, knock that out in about 15-20 minutes, then show up for the full one for the second part of the trip. And then obviously if they're both empty, which it was in my situation, I absolutely would and did both of those. Both of them were chalked out to take from like 7:28 to 8:43. I think I got the first one done at like 7:20, 7:23, and then checked in. Now again, this whole time I'm an ineligible driver for the second load, but as soon as I finish that first one, I'm then able to assign myself to the second one, and I picked the second one up. I checked in at 7:25, so I was on time for both. Loads that were supposed to, be an hour and 45 minutes a piece, I knocked them both out in about 45 minutes. All right, so let's talk about bad timing now and how my familiarity with the situation bred a special type of complacency with me recently. Cost me 175 bucks. But, I mentioned earlier, the third step in that thing is actually starting the shift. You've booked the load, you've assigned the driver, now you go into the app and you start the shift. Well, I found myself down in Otay the other night, had a couple hours to kill before I was scheduled to be there. To be honest, I was kind of looking at the load board, seeing what else dropped, seeing if something was close and I could take it. But I still was gonna be there on time. I was where I was supposed to be. And, I hadn't started the shift yet. And when I went to start it, it came up saying it was canceled. Now, normally when Amazon cancels a load, they issue you a $175 TONU, or truck order not used. However, I didn't get one on there. And if you notice, there's a little text bubble on there. That's me contacting Trip Support saying, hey, I see you guys canceled the load. Where's my $175? And they said, because you didn't start the load, we don't have to give it to you. Okay, I learned, a $175 lesson right there. Cool, I'll never make that mistake again. But, be sure and start those shifts. You're the one who has the control of hitting the button on your phone saying it started. And had I hit that button a couple minutes before I did, or, when I first got there 2 hours before I did, it would have been $175 more dollars. Now, not to worry, that was one piece of a puzzle that was a $1,300 night, ended up being about $1,100 night, but still, I learned a valuable lesson. All right, so doing something I swore I'd never do. Whenever I make these videos, I always do it at the start of my day when I'm fresh and I'm getting started. I've been up for about 18 hours. The world's waking up. It's the morning time. I've been up all night. I've been up since yesterday. But, you know, when you look like this, you need every advantage you can get. And, you know, as far as, you know, stay up for 18 hours, make a video and put it on the internet, maybe not the best move, but hey, we're here. But basically, the breakdown on last night is this. I was fortunate enough to get 4 of those move the trailer across the streets for $200 a piece. I know on there they say it's 2 miles. It's 0.6 miles gate to gate. If you don't believe me, Google Maps says the same thing. I mean, Sand 3 to Sand 5, 0.6 miles. But I still had 8 hours on my drive clock after I did the 4th one. And I chose to stop right then and there because, you know, somebody's going to ask me one day, hey, what's the hardest day in trucking you've ever had? And I'd be like, I'm sure that day's coming. But you know, when somebody asks me, hey, what's the easiest day you've ever had? I can be like, you know, there was St. Patrick's Day 2023. I drove 2.4 miles and made $800, and this will be it. I mean, I don't think I'll get an easier day than I had. Now, I don't want to mislabel last night. Was this typical? Is this something you could expect? No, I've been doing Amazon for about a year, and this was the unicorn of all nights. So definitely it's not typical, but what made it possible was timing. And if you look at some of these loads, start time, stop time, some of them were double booked, but I got them all done. I was where I needed to be on time, and it got completed. So as always, appreciate you for watching. Hope this video serves you well. Take care.